If you follow the channel, you know that what I work on mostly is batteries, but batteries are one side of the equation. There's two sides to this. It's not only energy storage, it's energy generation, and I'm really quite keen on energy generation as well. Now there's an interesting crossover point in earth batteries. Earth batteries are one of those curious things where nobody's really sure if it's a generator or a battery. Now, if there's a chemical reaction and there's a redox reaction going on there, a galvanic reaction, so where you're getting some kind of rusting, then sure, it's a battery. But if you have something that it isn't doing that, where the rusting isn't happening, and there is a huge debate about this, then somehow it's tapping a natural force, in which case it's a generator. Now, we don't have to do anything with it apart from stick some metal in the ground or some carbon in the ground and attach it up and use it. So I would say it qualifies as a free energy generator. So there's an enormous amount of debate about this, but to my mind, batteries, earth batteries, are that point at which storage and generation crosses. And for that, I think they're absolutely fascinating. So we're going to have a look at earth batteries.
Hi, so it's quite a lovely day, so I've come outside because basically I'm sick of being stuck inside. And what I thought I'd look at are earth batteries. Now, earth batteries have been known for quite a while, and it's quite a debate about the mechanism of their operation. So for a long time they were talking about whether it was galvanic corrosion of the plates that were stuck in the earth, and it's likely that that is contributing. But a large reason that they think they work is they tap into something called telluric currents. Now, telluric currents are the natural current that flow through the earth and the sea, so they flow around the globe, and they're directional, so they flow from pole to pole, and they flow from light to dark, so they flow towards the sun. So the direction that you place things obviously is important and will change. Now, in the northern hemisphere, which is where I'm in the UK obviously, then you get a higher current if you place the anode north of the cathode. I'm assuming that in the southern hemisphere the opposite would be true. Now, nobody really understands how earth batteries work. They were very popular in the late 1800s, early 1900s, because the first investigations and recognition of this as a phenomenon was 1862, I think. I think it was a Swiss guy. Since he discovered that, they got very popular in use for things like running clocks and alarms in houses, that kind of thing. Now, they produce a few milliamps of current, and they're dependent on their surface area. What struck me is that the method of operation is probably very similar to that free energy generator that I did on the members channel. Now, I'm not 100% sure if that's true or not, but it strikes me that there is something linking those things together, and it might be interesting to try and look at what that linkage may be. Now, some of the conditions are that the soil can't be too dry, and that's led people to say, hey, well, it's galvanic. Yeah, maybe, or it might be that it's just that the transmission can take place. Now, the voltages that you get depend on the materials that you put into the soil, and the current seems to depend on the surface area of the material and the orientation of the material. So I've taken a selection of just stuff I had laying around, because all kinds of stuff works, and it's one of the reasons I think that it's going to be good for an investigation during this period, because it's basically just stuff lying around. So I've got a couple of carbon rods that I got from a zinc carbon battery, obviously because of that, a bit of zinc. I've got a bit of brass, because I had that lying around from that generator that I made, the free energy one. A bit of aluminium, a steel screw, and a bit of lead that I got from the covering of our house, because we had our roof redone. We had some of this scrap, so if you have a look around, you will be able to find all kinds of materials that you could test this with. So there's an awful lot of things to be looking at. Like I say, orientation, humidity, dampness of the soil, the different materials, what can and can't be used. The anode would be chosen really in relation to the electronegativity of the material, I would suggest. Again, I don't really know. I'm just going on some of the research that I've read around this to make some kind of selection. a lot isn't known about it, so it would be really interesting, I think, to investigate this further and find out what works and what doesn't work. I mean, it would strike me that along the same lines of that free energy generator, if we're putting it into damp soil in the sun, as soon as the telluric currents flow to the sun and evaporation will lead to contact resistance, would it work better in somewhere like England where we get rain and drying and rain and drying? Would that actually generate a significant amount of power depending on the rainfall? Now, I think that's highly likely. It would be really interesting to investigate. Now, to have a quick look at this, all I've actually got here is a digital multimeter because that should be enough. I'll be able to get some voltage readings out of it. And what I've also done is I've taken a kilo ohm resistor and just put it there between two clips because that's going to be a dummy load, so I can get some current readings out of it. And I've equally got my phone here, which has got a compass on it, so I can find out where the north is. So I'm just pulling up the compass. And north is that way. So where I'm sitting right now, that's north. So that's where my anode is going to go. And I'm going to choose a bit of zinc. And distance would be another one. How far apart can we put these? Equally, can we increase the voltage of it if we put several of these and wire them up in series to increase the voltage? Now, I can tell you if they're too close together, no, it doesn't. But what about if they're further apart, or if there's some kind of separator in there? What would that separator have to look like in order to get that to help? The more you put in, you will increase the current, but that's just because you're increasing the surface area. So we put a bit of zinc in there, and then a bit of copper, which actually I'm using brass. So stick the brass in there, we should be able to get a voltage reading out of that. You'll soon know, incidentally, if you've got it the wrong way around, because the voltage reading will be negative and you're looking for a positive reading. Okay, I'm getting 0.72. I'm using brass. Between zinc and copper, it's supposed to be about 0.9. You can actually calculate that. I'm getting 0.72 as a voltage reading. Now we put our resistor in series with that, we should be able to get an amp reading. I mean, it's going to be microamps, okay? But we should be able to get a reading on that. Sure enough, we're getting a tiny, tiny reading. Now I'll play around with that a little bit and try some of these different materials to see what happens. Okay, so I've put lead in there, and I'm getting 0.21 of a volt when it's against brass. Oh, sorry, 0.21. So obviously lead is an anode material. It's a carbon rod. Okay, that's jumped up to 0.75. That's actually fascinating. So we can try lead against carbon. Obviously, if you're a bit nervous about lead, don't use lead. Copper against carbon gives me 0.6. We'll get the same kind of voltages irrespective of the orientation. This north-south orientation orienting towards the sun, the diurnal orientation, is what affects the current. Oh, that's impressive. Aluminium against carbon gives me a volt, actually, which is kind of cool. Thought I should share with you, I just stuck a bit of magnesium in there because I'd forgotten to do it in the main video, and that jumped up to 2 volts. It's against carbon, so magnesium carbon has an awesome voltage. Try an iron now. It's a lump of steel actually, and it's giving me 0.5 volt. Actually it's stainless steel. So we've got a lump of stainless steel and a lump of carbon there. The chances of that voltage being corrosion dependent obviously are minute. But it is an absolutely fascinating subject that it is possible to draw this current out of here and make it usable. Now, there were quite a lot of patents, as I say, around the late 1800s, 1890, 1900, 1910, of various structures you could devise to improve the output of this battery, and you can get useful work out of it. It kind of fell out of favour because the current isn't absolutely massive, obviously, so it kind of fell out of favour, and it's had a huge resurgence at the moment for things like distance lighting of telegraphs, power supplies that are needed to run lights in remote locations, that sort of stuff. The corrosion does happen, but it happens extremely slowly. And when you run these things, or you bury these things in the ground, they have years and years of service life, which is one of the reasons they're becoming more popular now. So if you have a look again on Google Scholar, what you find is there's an awful lot more research papers. Now, I've come outside because it's a lovely day, and I'm just sticking these things in the ground and having a look at that. But there's nothing to stop you making up pots of this, so you get some soil from your garden, put them in some plant pots, and arrange a whole load of these. And that way you'll find that you can in fact connect them in series to get higher and higher voltages. And you can connect those in parallel. I did see an experiment where a chap ran a radio from this. So I thought earth batteries were a really interesting investigation that could be done while you're locked at home and there's not a lot else to do, to try and find some ways of improving those mechanisms, as we suggested: surface area, arrangement, insulation one from the other, dampness, rates of evaporation, orientation to the sun, orientation to the poles, all kinds of things that could be looked at that would be really, really interesting. So I just thought I would share that simple idea with you, and hopefully it's a spark off something to do maybe with the kids if it's not something you would be interested in doing yourself, because you should be able to arrange enough of these to do something like light up a LED or run a simple motor, and that's got to be really exciting and really interesting for folks. The mechanism, again, I'm not really sure, and I'm sure 100 people have 100 different theories, ranging from ley lines right the way through to, hey, it's just corroding. So I'm sure that there's an awful lot of theories out there. Myself, I think it's strongly related to the ideas that I discussed in the free energy generator on the members channel. But I thought I'd share this with you. I hope it was of interest, and thank you very much for watching.